hmm when you go through the steel manufacturers, yes, I just want to be sure of the tensile strength of all the firearms that are being purchased by law enforcement. Yes. Mhm. And for those that complain about their leaking taser, yeah. Could you get me the manufacturer of the taser? Yeah. See, supposedly, right, the taser is safer than the gun. But my thought is that there seems to be some leaking of electricity. Yes. Now, quite often when you're in law enforcement and you wonder why you have to keep charging your taser, yeah. Well, you didn't discharge it, no, but your hand is always on it, yeah. As in, you're able to amp yourself up because of the leaking electricity from your taser. See, it could be that your firearms are going to get a lot more expensive. And my thought is, well, I'm going to go through the manufacturer and the sales of all firearms of every police and sheriff's department. Yes. And then I'm going to require them to have to increase the tensile strength of the actual metal used to manufacture your guns. Now you'd say, well, you can't do that. I think I can. In fact, I can probably convince them, yes, that at well 1,000 to 1,500 degrees is just not enough. It's a safety concern, right? So you can expect to pay 3 to 4 times as much money for the purchase of any firearm in any law enforcement department of the United States. They're going to have to buy my technology because to get a metal to 2,500 degrees, it's going to require an HHO gas smeltering system. Yeah, that generates steam. Oh, it's a little smelter that I talked about. Yes, that now I'm going to want gun manufacturers to have to manufacture guns at a much higher metal tensile strength. Yes. Now, for all the tasers that have been purchased and all of law enforcement, yeah. I had read reports that there's a leaking problem of your taser. Yeah. And I'm just going to need the charging stations and any electricity, telephone systems, or cell phones that you ran through the tasers. Oh. Now, I noticed, yes, that my cell phone has what's known as roaming. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, excuse me. That somebody said they were going to. Well, there's what's known as Ken and Barbie. Yes, where all the wives of police officers are Barbies. Yeah, and all the police officers are Kens. Yes, and you always look so nice. And you never do anything wrong. But looking at the actual policy of the Washington State Sheriffs and police officers, yeah, and having thought about what I talked about yesterday, I put a little screen print on my drive, yes, and it talks about when you're informed of domestic violence, yeah, one of the two has to go to jail. See, the officer determines that family or household members have assaulted each other, yes. The officer will arrest the person he or she believes to be the primary aggressor. Yeah. State law also requires mandatory arrest for violations of no contact orders, yes, and civil protection orders. Now, a person arrested for domestic violence offenses, yeah, will usually be held in jail until he or she appears before a judge, usually the following business day. The court may require a defendant charged with domestic violence to sign a no contact order as a condition for release from jail prior to trial. Yeah. But when really thinking about the domestic dispute of the policy, yeah, of police departments and those in law enforcement agencies, somehow I'm thinking that you're not getting arrested. See, you arrest me for a traffic citation. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I wasn't in Squim. Yeah. But you have to prosecute me because it's a mandatory arrest. Yes. When you use a fake, yes, victim to allege or accuse a fake perpetrator. Yeah. In a fake police department, while in a fake court. Yes. Where I go to a fake jail. Now, the thought was that when you do all of this for each other, where you just kind of get the 911, the CAD, you fill out a report, yeah. Somehow your violation violating the mandatory arrest requirements of reported domestic violence. Oh. Now, do you get to do that because you're police officers that you investigate domestic disputes? Yes, but you're exempt from the mandatory arrest requirements of reported domestic violence. Now, yesterday I asked for all the victims in the employment of the governments of the United States. Yes. Now I'd like to know the perpetrators. Oh, because if I find out, yes, that any police officer, it has been reported domestic violence, yeah, and you decided to do one of those agency things where you investigate it, yes, and you find out it's a domestic dispute, the law actually says it's a mandatory requirement for arrest. Get me the perpetrators. Because it looks like you've exempted yourselves, yes, from the mandatory arrest requirements of reported domestic violence. Oh, excuse me. Now, every time I find out, in each and every police department, yeah, sheriff's department, FBI, Homeland Security, yes, and any other form of law enforcement in the United States, yes, that you did not do the mandatory arrest of one of the family members that you thought was the aggressor when using 911 or any other means of communication, yeah, of domestic violence, I'm going to sue you. Now, it's different than a double standard. You're actually violating the mandatory arrest requirements, yes, of reported domestic violence. Now, it could be during the trial. Yes. You established that it was just a domestic dispute. Yeah. See, it sounded kind of stupid for me to ask the question, where was I at on July 8th of 2011? I was in jail. Yeah. Because of the mandatory arrest requirements of them, the Gomanian Police Department, thinking I was the aggressor. Yeah. hmm And I spent 10 days in jail on Guam because I had no place to live. Yeah. Now, when it's a mandatory arrest for the probable cause arrest of December 31st of 2015, yeah, I wasn't in that city. Oh, I hadn't talked to my wife or my sons. Yes. And when you issued the protection order in 2011, when she ran into the court and said, my husband's crazy. Yes. I don't know where he's at. The last time I'd seen him, the police had arrested him. Yeah. There could not be a mandatory arrest for the second accusation of domestic violence and child abuse. There can only be one mandatory arrest for each accusation of domestic violence and child abuse. That arrest took place on Guam. Now, you actually did not have the jurisdiction to issue that protection order because you did not have the enforceable obligation of mandatory arrest. Now, I want you to remove your shit today. Do you understand? Yes! There was a no contact order as a condition of personal recognizance of the diversion program. Yes. And this county cannot try me for two offenses of the same nature. No. It's in the Constitution someplace. So you can't just issue a protection order when there's already a no contact order. And you sure can't issue a temporary protection order when the individual's in jail. Because the person cannot commit the crime of domestic violence. Yeah. He's in jail at the time. Now, there has to be the availability of the individual actually committing the crime of domestic violence for you to be able to issue the. Mhm. Let's see here. Amendment number 6, impartial district where the crime committed informative nature cause compulsory process. Otherwise, the examine excessive bail should not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Yeah. Let it be preserved no fact by jury, otherwise re-examined in the court of the United States according to the rules of common law. Yes. Now, obviously, you can't re-examine what I'm on trial for on Guam. You cannot use an arrest on Guam to issue a protection order when there's a no contact provision of the diversion. Yeah. You cannot issue a protection order in Clallam County while I'm in jail. There has to be the idea. Yes. See, Amendment number 5. Yes. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. Yes. Now, the thought is life or limb right now. That when you issue a temporary protection order ex parte on July 8th of 2011 and I'm in jail, yes, there is no possibility you can issue it because I'm in jail. I can't commit the crime of domestic violence when being in jail. Now, the thought of you issuing it while I'm on trial on Guam, yes, you put me in jeopardy of life or limb twice, yes, for the same arrest. See, you would want to say they could arrest me in Guam, yes, for violating the no contact provisions of the diversion program when it is impossible.